Welcome back to another episode of 1 to 100 Architecture Podcast, where we delve into everything design related and share some light on our personal experiences and help you out understanding the architecture realm. This is season 3, and this season is called No Offence, where we explore the idea of things that crawl under our skin and how to break down myths and busting rumors. My name is Cindy, and today I'm here with Naomi, Besma, Amanda, and Adonai.
Hello.
And the title of our episode today is No Offence, but Mental Health Does Not Exist in Architecture.
I love the way you're smiling.
I mean, okay, so where do we start? So really and truly, what I wanted to talk about is not only the struggles that people get into when they start doing architecture, it's more about the support that you do get and also or don't get, and how does that affect us. So I was doing a bit of research in general, and a research says that architects have in average, students that do architecture have in average 5 hours sleep. That's
really?
an average 5 hours sleep.
I was lower than that.
Tired.
And that's what I read.
5
But
hours
it
a
could be
week.
lower, and which was surprisingly higher. But in general, it is quite low for students that go into uni. And I just wanted to say, I'm just going to start off with my experience in architecture and mental health. So obviously, coming into architecture, you come in confident. You're like, yeah, I want to do architecture. I'm going to get some money. Yeah, it's going to be nice. I'm going to draw. I'm going to do all this stuff. Anyway, you get in there. It's a lie. It's a lie.
It was all a lie.
It was all a dream.
And basically, yes, basically it is. So you get in, and I was really excited when I started. Then you get sucked into so much work is thrown at you. And with architecture, it's not like things are taught to you. But anyway, my experience in first year, you didn't get taught things. They're like, okay, draw me a plan. You need to go and research what a plan is. You need to go and research this and this and that. Then you come and they tell you if it's wrong or it's right, which also adds more pressure. I can only, thinking about it, I have PTSD. Listen, the amount of all-nighters I did in uni, the amount of work that was thrown at me, and the amount of also a lot of tutors don't understand that different people work in different ways, and they expect you to work, everyone in the group to work in the same phase, the same way, the same velocity, and it's different. You're constantly put under pressure, and I'm sure everyone in architecture was under pressure, but this is my personal. I felt so much under pressure because I'm more of a slow learner. I'm more of one that needs that tutor to be explain things a little bit more for me. I'm the one who will do things twice before I get it. But it's okay. I never felt that was wrong. Because I just thought, as long as I get there and I do well, because I know when I get it, I would do well. That's important. But that made me feel like I was always behind because I was always trying to go at the same pace as everyone else. And that pulled me behind, actually. And that's when you start getting depressed. That's when you start getting shutting down. That's where even when you need help, you feel like you can't ask help because you asked help last week and they feel like you should have known this already. And that's when you start falling behind. And I feel like I had a very hard time sleeping, eating. I lost so much weight in uni. I was not sleeping. I was sleeping if I was sleeping, I was sleeping in the studio. And I felt like it's a lot. I feel like when I have memories about uni, it's nice because I met amazing people.
Do that.
Amazing people. But when I think about it, I think about my experience of architecture is the non-sleep, the crying, the tears, the non-sleeping, the feeling of failure, the feeling of you're not gonna do this, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna graduate, and it's a feeling that over the years I just feel like a lot of people have been feeling. I just felt like I know I was there with my friends, but I felt like alone in there. And when you start speaking to everyone else, because everyone deals with stress in a different way, you're like, wow, we were all struggling. And what did the institution do to help us? You know? And I feel like there wasn't help in our institution. There wasn't help. And if the help was there, it was very passive. It was very, they've come to me because of this. I have to say this, I have to do. But there was not a genuine care, the genuine...
the lack of empathy.
Yeah, empathy for someone. So the first question is like, if you can just a little bit like summarize your experience and do you feel like you were helped by the institution where we studied? Because we all studied together. So do you feel like you were helped?
Go.
I think in hindsight, I think there was help. It's just that you probably don't know about it. I think there was someone that we all know who did reach out to the wellbeing services and had a counsellor or had a therapist. And it was only in third year that I heard about that kind of service in the university. So I was just like, oh my gosh, where has this been like throughout our whole journey? And it would be wrong for me to say there wasn't help. Maybe it could have been more
prevalent.
Yeah, more I can't think of
visible.
Visible. But I feel like putting posters around the university or putting posters around the studio doesn't really help. I feel like our mind was somewhere else. Like, I'm not gonna be looking at the poster like that. So I feel like if, for example, you know how when we first started, they had a lecture and the librarian came and showed us or told us how we can use the library better. If they had like an actual lecture where they said, here are the mental health services, here are the on-site university therapists and counsellors and wellbeing services that you can go to, then I think it would help a lot of us. But my own experience, I didn't have that. And I feel like I needed that because like you, I lost so much weight, didn't eat, and I would purposely not eat to kind of punish myself for not completing my work. In a way, I had a bad relationship with food. Like, food was my reward for doing my work. And I feel like if I had that support in uni, then it would have like completely changed my journey in architecture. So like the stress, the late night all-nighters and everything, to be fair, is debatable. You can say there is time management and discipline that needs to be put in hand and you need to work on that. But I feel like this uni could have supported us better.
I think like they did like the bare minimum of just saying, oh, like just make sure you sleep and like don't do all-nighters and like
I never heard that.
Even certain I know like as in certain, but that's like that was all that was said. There wasn't sort of like like I don't know how to say it, but no one actually sat down and said, how are you feeling? Like, how do you feel about how this is going? This and that. Do you get what I mean? It's almost like this is how it is. You either accept it or just leave, I guess. Like, do you get what I mean? It's one of them ones. And it's kind of like I think architectural education is quite outdated. It's quite very traditional. It's very like by the book in a certain way, and it's like as long as they're adhering to certain principles then it's fine. But we're the ones who are being educated. You're supposed to turn to us and ask us what we like, how we should be approached, how we should take on the education, and actually look at other like forms of look at other like courses and how they're sort of carrying that out. Because how are we like sleeping the least? Like, that's not okay. I know we get like a large amount of workload and there's so much expected from us, but surely there is a way you can just sit down and figure out how to make this education accessible to all kinds of like learners, because they've set it, I feel like they've organized it, they've set it in a way that works for a particular kind of learner. Like and it's kind of widespread with a lot of education systems. Like, for instance, when you go from secondary school, primary school, a lot of things you're rewarded by your ability to memorize. That's not learning, because I mean, do I even know? Like, do I even know what differentiation is and all of that kind of stuff? Is that going to help me? No. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those stuff. And it's almost like as you grow older, you're going to have more responsibilities and more stress. And I feel like learning how to deal with stress is something, and dealing with larger amounts of workload is something that should have been taught at a young age. But at the same time, we kind of have to meet halfway. We need to learn how to deal with an overload, but they need to come to us and also make things a bit more accessible. And do you know what I mean? It's a two-way street, I feel.
It's kind of like a catch-22 though, because I don't think they know how to deal with their own workload. Or I don't think they know how to deal with their own stress. And I think in order for you to teach something, you have to know how to do it yourself. So maybe the problem is not, and also the working world, like even working in industry, does anyone know how to deal with their stress? No. Like, does anyone know how to manage their workload? Absolutely not. Like, I think that is then reflected in the education system. And so there's a constant cycle of, you have a lot of work to do, you stress, you do an all-nighter, your mental health deteriorates badly. And if no one puts an end, if you don't draw your boundaries, you don't put an end to the cycle, it will continue to go on and on and on. But the first place you start with is yourself. Like, where do you stop and say, I'm not doing an all-nighter because I can't finish it in this time? And even with me sleeping 20 hours, if me working 20 hours straight or 24 hours straight is not going to make me any more productive. In fact, it's probably going to make me less productive, because I'll be upset that I've stayed up this amount of time, I've crossed my boundaries, and I haven't met the deadline. So now you've reduced your own value. You've given into something you said you wouldn't do, and you didn't perform to your best. Like, you feel like crap. Do you know what I mean? So like, but when you were saying, like, just in terms of like my own experience, like, I just said, like, you know what? I can't do it in this time. Like, I can't do any more all-nighters. I'm so tired. I had a part-time job. I was working 20 hours in a week. Like, I was exhausted. And it got to a point where my manager called me. He's like, are you sure you want to work? I'm like, it's not, do I want to work? I have to work because I need to pay my bills. Like, I don't have a massively supportive community around me. So I need to pay my bills. So I was like, I need to work. So I need to manage my time. And when I asked for an extension, like, it was so stigmatized to get an extension that, I didn't get the same amount of tutoring time. I didn't get the same amount of respect during my crits. My tutorials were not the same. Like, it was a very different atmosphere when you ask for the time and that you need to complete something on time. So I think if you're not afraid of that, and if you kind of embrace the fact that you need more from what you're given, you can be marginalized, but you're respecting yourself. And in terms of like counseling and things like that, I got counseling at uni when I was in my second year. It did take a while to like get there in the end, but I got counseling. I think I went to like 6 sessions with this lady, and it was probably like the most relieving thing I've ever done in my life. Like, it was so nice to talk about, like, not just architecture, but like things outside of architecture that were influencing the way and the pace in which I was working. And like, I think sometimes as an architecture student, you don't realize there are things that revolve around your studies that impact the way you work. Like, life happens, how do you know, like, your cat just died, right? Maybe you were not even that close to the pet, but that happening impacted so many other things around you. Maybe your student finance hasn't come, that you can't afford the materials.
God, I know all about that.
And not just you can't afford the materials, maybe that student finance, you have to pay some of it to your parents. How does that impact then the way your parents decide to support you during your studies? So I think if you can find a release, or if you can sign up for counselling, I would strongly recommend it. There's nothing wrong with it. It doesn't make you any more or less capable of doing your work. It just means you're taking the initiative to do something and prioritizing your mental health. So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I also just want to also to speak about like in a workplace. So I have friends that work in practice, and people that have been working in practice for a long time, and they say that you go through undergrad stressing a lot about a lot of things. There's a like if an artistic freedom of doing the designs that you want. You struggle, you go all out, all crazy on your project. Then you go into practice, and practice is completely different from what you do in uni. You don't design the fanciest building, you don't you do like door handles, basic plans and stuff like that. And also that also affects your creativity. It affects your creativity, affects your mindset, because you're in an environment where you're put, even the best of us are put in a such high, and when you get into practice, you're kind of like humbled real quick.
Yeah.
And do you feel like the like uni doesn't prepare you even mentally? Because when we're talking about mental health, people always just think it's a negative or you must be depressed or anything. But mental health means having an like a clean mental state, where you have everything clear in your head, and your mental health is not like how do you fogged out. So you have a clear vision of how you feel and how you are at the moment. So it's like a lot of the times people jump from undergrad to postgraduate, or even jump from undergrad to working, and it's like uni does not prepare you for what that jump is. It doesn't prepare you. Is like you're in a loop. You go into a place, because like about 2-3 weeks ago, my friend was telling me how he's in this job where he's working hours and hours and hours. He's not really having time for himself, but he just feels like that's the job. That's the job. Architects, we've been told that not having sleep is okay.
Yeah.
Not having sleep, that's the job. You don't have to sleep. Working, if your contract say from 8 to 6, you working to 10 p.m. It's okay, because that's what architects do. But that do you guys feel like that is right? Do you feel like it should be a thing? Because it affects you. He's just told me that he's not going out with his friends. It feels like he enjoys the weekends, and when he gets to Sunday, he gets anxiety because he has to now start working on Sunday evening just to protect, prepare himself for
like
Monday.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, I just want to know your opinions on like what you feel like.
That's completely unsustainable. It's not. You can't, like, no one can go on working like that. That's just completely unrealistic. And I think, unfortunately, undergrad, or at least at the architectural education, at least in the UK, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but I'm gonna go out on a whim and say that is probably similar. That this is just a culture that is just being perpetuated, and that's kind of like it continues from university out into the industry and the working world. And that's something that a lot of practices are recognizing and saying, like, okay, we don't want they don't want to be responsible for that kind of behavior. You know what I mean? Because they know it's problematic and they know that things need to change. So it's just like, okay, you have to take, for example, like my company, they have toil, or like some days off. So if you're working overtime, you get some hours compensated, saying like, okay, these are some times off that you need to take for yourself and you need to go away and take them. But some people might then take that as like, oh, I can work more overtime because now I get something back from it. So it's just like it's a very toxic way of thinking. And so in terms of architecture, because the course is so demanding and so intense work-wise, and the amount that they demand from you is so high, I think it would be, at least in my opinion, I think it would be very helpful if we had tutors who are teaching you that were also trained somewhat in recognizing or like trained in mental health. So like if you see someone is losing weight,
100%.
because loads of people lost weight at uni,
I gained weight.
like ask them or
Me too.
the opposite. Do you know what I mean? Like if you because you're seeing them like 2-3 times a week, like you know your students, like by the end of the day, like you know their last name. If you had a caring tutor, then I think that would really like people would benefit from that quite a lot. Because I had a situation where I went to them and I was like, look, I'm having this really tough situation. I said that I couldn't afford to pay for printing and to print my portfolio. So I was like, can I submit
It's
it digitally?
expensive, man.
It was very expensive. I was like, it was going
Same
to
price
cost
as a pair of trainers.
It was
No, honestly.
It was going to cost me £200 to
Yay.
print a portfolio. £200 extra. I was like, I can't do it to this
I
standard.
still
I'm so
can't
sorry.
Wrap my head
And
around it.
the response was, that's really awkward.
No, we're not going to do that.
See,
We're not gonna
that
do
plays
that.
in your head, doesn't it?
And I think that carries on
That adds
into
an
workplace.
extra
An
piece of
extra,
stress, because now you're
exactly.
not just thinking about printing, but you're now also thinking about like what that person said to you and how that's emotionally impacting you, that you start to lose sight of like where the initial issue
Problem
is,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
which
you
is
have no
like
idea.
you just submitting your work, which sounds like a simple task, but when you add all these things to it, it's hard to like
It
compartmentalize
should be
it.
free.
It should be free.
You know what I was
No,
thinking?
actually should be
Why does
free.
Mandy look so angry? Yeah, it should be
Mandy
free.
just looks.
No, I'm annoyed because like imagine paying. Sorry, but
I think it's
just
our
off the
uni
bat,
or
we
some
get
other
like
uni.
student loan. Like, okay, cool, but it's not actually our money. Like you are going from state education to private education. Treat me like a private student because that is what I'm paying for. And so to pay for my portfolio means that I'm like, it's not part of my education. Like it's not included in everything else that's going on. So you shouldn't have to pay for your portfolio. You shouldn't have to pay for printing. You shouldn't have to pay for materials because these are the essential things you need to pass the course
Yeah.
to an amazing standard. And if you want your students to do work to that standard, then provide the facilities for them to do that. It doesn't make sense for you to pay for it, you know?
Mm.
I think it's also the
£200.
fact that like what's sad is that we look back and we're just like, why did we pay for it? And I wish I could, like, if I could go back, I could have just like, I wish I could just stand my ground and be like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not paying
No,
for that.
I would send you a PDF.
Either if I'm gonna have a crit, then
what
we're
I
just
did
having
on
an
last year.
electronic.
Yeah.
I was
Like
digital
our unit was just
yes.
electronic, but it was just even like with first year, what a waste of paper.
Oh my days.
Oh,
They're like sustainability. How sustainable is your project? But then you're using like 500 pieces of paper. Like what?
That they're just gonna flick it through it like
And
in
then
5
write
minutes.
like
not
a
like-
red pen and
It's
like.
not like you can print in black and white.
Anyways.
Oh.
But anyway, what I was trying to say is that whole like that the toxicity of all of that is then translated into the work environment because some people, it's not like the workplace is like forcing you to do that.
It's just
But
accepted. It's the norm.
It's just like some people are just like they wear it as a badge of honor. It's like, yeah, I stayed this late. I worked through the whole
I'm just
weekend.
like, you don't have a life then. That's all it
And they-
is.
My dear, you need help.
And they feel like they'll get rewarded for it. So it's just like
Send
it's a bad.
help.
I feel like people should
Bad
stand the ground and place their boundaries because
Yeah.
especially in a working environment, you know, you have life. So now we've graduated, we're adults, we have other things to think about. You know, living in London is expensive. You have rent, you have this, you have that. Then on top of that, you don't have time for yourself. Like, you don't have time for yourself. You should stay your boundaries and say, listen, I understand. I don't mind working an hour extra, but after this time, I'm not going to work. Because first of all, it's not in my contract. People act like, if you don't work this hours, you that's not in your contract. Legally, they are not. They can't force you.
Like if you close your laptop, they're not gonna come for you.
Yeah, you
I'm
can't.
not gonna lie though. A lot of architecture
But
contracts
still.
don't say that. Like they actually say you should work a significant
Yeah.
a percentage of time after. Like if a project is like
If
essential
it's
or if
important,
it's
yeah.
important.
Of course. But there are people that do it from the first day they go in
Yeah.
to the last day of the project.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say, I feel like sometimes you doing that. So if you guys think back to season 1 or 2 when we invited Brad and he was sharing his experience of being in the firm, and he said when it got to 5 o'clock, 5:30, he shut his laptop and he was walking, and that was his boundary. yet people still looked at him a certain type of way, like, where are you going? Like,
And it's still
Mate.
graduated. It's still
I do that.
working.
Yeah.
I
I'm
do
just
that.
like, I don't go and I'm like, oh, I have to leave. I'm like, I'm gone.
I'm going because my day is done.
I feel like you have to
Like,
be
that's
bold
it.
and
I have things to
implement
do
your
and
boundary.
I've got my life to look after. So goodbye.
I don't think everyone's like that though. I feel like you need to
No, there needs to be.
But I feel like if
You
more
need to
people
be
did that in the
100%
profession, it will become the norm.
common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If people are just too scared and shy away from like getting judged, then you're just accepting that norm, which is unacceptable.
I will say that like firms need to be like more flexible 100% with like the ways of working, because that will greatly impact the working culture, the mental health of the workplace, people's productivity. Like no one wants to feel as though they're restricted. So, and already the architecture is very restricted as it is. So I think the firms that do provide that flexibility in terms of working from home, working on laptops, working in sketchbooks, working whatever way helps them to be more progressive are the ones that are going to thrive, because they put the people that work there first. And I think it's really important to feel appreciated wherever you work. So
There are like
and then
some
you get better work out of it, you know. You get
Exactly.
more- the creative juices flow better, because if you're like overworked, then it's just like, how are you coming up with good designs? It's not.
I mean, there is some hope in terms of like there's certain people I know that like in that like study with me at the apprenticeship, and I feel like maybe it's because they're from smaller practices, but they get told by their bosses like, go home, like no, you're not allowed, like leave, like close your laptop, and I'm like, wow, this is new to me.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? I'm like, where do you work?
Going from there, do you think there should be this last question? Then we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm gonna say for studio and for like a workplace? Do you think there should be a thing where like for studio, you know, I was open 24 hours. There should be a time where it's like studio is shut. And obviously, when deadlines are coming, then open. But there's a time, because the fact that it was open, I would drag myself there. But to be like, you know, maybe Sundays is closed, you know, or like even offices be like, you know, maybe on this particular days, everyone goes home at this time. Do you think there should be some things like that in place?
Yeah, I
don't
think there's
think
some
so.
universities that their studios aren't 24 hours.
Yeah.
I think the Bartlett, right?
Yeah.
Because even Randy on his episode, he said that, that was a luxury for us to have a 24-hour studio. So even the fact that they didn't have a 24-hour studio meant that they just did it at home anyway. They would do the all-nighters at home.
yeah, I don't think the problem is the studio. I think it's you. Like, no, I think if you, it's your mindset. Like, if you say I want to work all night, you're going to work all night, regardless of where you are. Like, if you find, you know, your friend's house and your friend is working all night, you'll go and do it at your friend's house. Like, the studio has nothing to do with it. But I actually think it's good that it's open 24 hours, only because it means that, you know, if, for example, you do finish work, you need to go back to the studio and finish something for an hour or two, you can allocate that time by yourself, and someone shouldn't restrict you from the time that you should work. But I think the mindset in that working for 24 hours is healthy should be banned. I don't think tutors should encourage it. I think if you see someone has been working long periods of time, because as we said, like you see someone at least twice a week, you know them the best, tell them to go home. Like you know,
so many people
draw your own boundaries, and don't allow other people to create unhealthy boundaries if you can see that they're not going in the same direction, in the right direction.
I hear that. Well, thank you, girls. Thank you for everything. No, it was a bit of a short episode. Hopefully we will have another chance to go more in depth about it. But it's definitely something that we should always speak about. We should always make it a prime thing, especially in the built environment, because there's a lot of people that do suffer from depression, do suffer and feel like they're not supported, anxiety. And so I think it will always be something very important that is really close to my heart and close to a lot of people. So just want to say thank you to our viewers. Thank you for our listeners for joining us in another episode. And I think just...
Wait, one thing. Sorry.
Yeah, go on.
I was just saying that, like, if anyone wants, like, if there's any suggestions from the viewers in terms of, like, what they want us to discuss about, because there are some things that people would probably want to get into the core
Off
of.
the back of this
Then
as well.
Absolutely.
please
Just
share that.
DM us, email us, any ways of contact. Even private is fine. Just make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. And also, honestly, follow us on all our social medias, our 1 to 100 podcast. And thank you again for all the support. And it's a wrap.
It's a wrap.